Welcome, friends, to a podcast with interesting people. I'm Adrian Sinclair, and today my guests are Roxanne and Harold Weir from HRW Creations. And today we're going to be talking about cosplay, interactive cosplay, prop making, Fanx, Comicon, and those fan-based events that people are so drawn into. He's in the space of creating his Popculture Con over here in Utah, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about today, which is the aspect of fans creating these conferences. Comicon, hugely popular, right? The space of creating props, the space of creating costumes, cosplay, and new term today, interactive cosplay. So we'll talk about that as well. So tell me a little bit about yourselves. How did you guys get into it? How long are you doing it, and why?
How long are we going to continue to do it, or how long have we been doing it?
How long you've been doing it?
Well, so the history is that in 2013, a friend of ours, Dan Farr, they introduced Fanx to Salt Lake City. The Salt Lake market had never had a Comic-Con before. And we went, we had never been to any fan shows before. And we went just to see what it was like. And while we were there, it was big, long lines. They hadn't worked out how to get people in and out. And so we stood outside and we saw all these people in these, just awesome costumes. I remember there were some Jedis that were standing close to us in line. They had flown in from Minnesota or some Midwest or someplace, and they'd flown in. They had these awesome costumes on, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. And we got in, and we were walking around the show, and it was really elbow to elbow. It was really crowded.
Right.
The first year, they didn't know how many people were going to come, and so it was really crowded.
How long has Fanx been going around in Utah?
That was the very first year. That was the very first show.
How many years? When was that?
2013.
2013. Okay, so 7 years.
7 years, and we were walking around, and we walked down this aisle, and there was Commander Data standing there,
right, with
his cat. He was a spitting image of Data. Just exactly as I remember Data from Next Generation.
Right. And
it just hit me. This is really cool. The Jedi were cool, but this was just like this light bulb went on. Like, wow, this is really cool. So then we finished that show. And then in the spring they did a Fanx. That was called Comicon at the time, and then they did a Fanx in the spring. And I really wanted, based on the fact that I saw this really awesome Data.
Right.
I just thought, I want to try to do something like that. But the only character that I had ever thought about dressing up as, and even though I'm a huge Star Trek fan, was I really wanted to do Thermians from Galaxy Quest.
And why is that?
Just love the movie. And a Star Trek fan, Galaxy Quest, it's just like, I just wanted to do Thermians. It's like, there was this thing that's like, I got to do Thermians. So we got some... they were called cat suits, but they were one-piece onesies, leather, fake leather, awful.
They were so hot.
They were awful. And I glued on some shiny things, and I printed on just a regular printer a patch, and I put it on, and we went, and we didn't know how to act. We didn't know what to do. We walked around, and we started feeling the character.
Right.
And the more we walked, the more we kind of, the character just kind of came. It was like it just happened. I don't know. It was organic. It just happened. And it's like, the more we walked around, then the more we started feeling what it was supposed to be like to be a real Thermian. And then we were walking, and we met some of our friends that they saw us, and they just been like, this is the most awesome thing I've ever seen. I'm thinking, these are the worst costumes I've ever seen. They were awful. And they were like...
So you say we, was Roxanne...
Roxanne and I... And
from the beginning, she was...
from the very beginning, she supported me in this quest. It was a quest, exactly. And our friends, and they went nuts. It's like, you guys are just, this is the most awesome thing I've ever seen. It's like, these are the worst costumes ever.
We even had someone chase us down and they're like, oh my gosh, you're a Thermian. Are you going to be here tomorrow? And we're like, well, yeah, but not as this. And so he asked if we'd come back on Saturday and be dressed in the same costume. And we did, and then all of a sudden we were able to join together with our commander.
He was Frank.
Yeah,
became the commander, and all of a sudden it was like this magical thing happened when Frank was the commander and we were Thermians. We would walk around, and it was like just all of a sudden this magic happened. We couldn't walk 10 feet and people would want photos with us.
Yeah.
Well, and it wasn't just the photos, it was the interaction. So we would make people laugh, and they would first be surprised because they wouldn't quite know where we were, and then we'd be with them for a minute and they'd understand.
Right.
It would just kind of click.
But it was like it seriously, it was like magic. And we got to the other side of the show. It took us a half an hour to walk across the show.
Not across the show, across
the floor.
Across the floor.
And then Frank got the other side, and Frank's like, you guys are like magic. Like, you're like photo magnets or something. Because I walk around as the commander and nobody pays attention, but I walk around with you, and all of a sudden, but from the very beginning, we didn't just walk around as, because we're in spandex, leatherish spandex. And from the very beginning, as soon as it just kind of organically happened where we were the characters. Right. And that wasn't any thought process of our own. It just happened. And that's how the whole interactive cosplay came to be, because if you're going to wear spandex at our age and you're going to walk through and there's 70,000 people, you're not going to be yourself. And that's what we decided, and the interaction is what just fed on itself. And the more we did it, the more we learned about what we felt. It was almost like it was this thing. It was like it was supposed to happen this way, and things just happened, and we're going, that's the way it should have been. And that's the way, and in our minds it became, this is the way Thermians act. This is the way things happen, and we became the Thermians.
But it didn't matter what uniform or costume we put on. We do that with all of them because, again, you don't want to be in any costume. I don't want to be in any costume.
Why do you think, like, what is the attraction? Like, when I talked to Jordan Turner about, like, cosplay and you know, curiosity is, like, why people do it, right? Like, why dress up? And I think I asked him, like, is it escapism? Do people, like, want to do, is it just, obviously it's fun, right? But also, like, maybe there's something else to it. Maybe it's just people are like, hey, I don't want to be like myself. I want to be like something else. I can get out of my day-to-day personality person thing and just have fun and just be someone else. Like, what attracted you guys to this? I mean, to stay with it, because it's one thing to kind of do it once in a while, just kind of do it, but, like, if you kind of get involved with it and do it every year, and then just, like, becomes part of, like, your almost like a tradition. So what was it like for you?
You're the one who she had a different road than I did. So I can tell you my road, and Roxanne can tell you her road.
So Roxanne got sucked in a little bit.
She got sucked in. My road is, from what I've seen, oh my goodness, from what I saw from people, a good example is we were Thermians going up an escalator. And we got to the top, and there was a person who at the top said, I need a photo of you. He was not just a person. He had a really nice camera. He said, let me give you a minute to get in character, and then I'll take a picture of you. And we're like, we're never not in character. And it's like, what is this? We were Thermians, so it's like, what is this character you're talking about?
Lies, deception.
Lies, exactly. Because it's like, we are never not the characters who we are portraying. 100%, anytime we're in our costumes, we're 100%. And that's for us, the interaction. Now, I've seen lots of people who spend time that they walk around, and then when someone does want to take a picture, all of a sudden you can see them become the character.
Right.
And I think that for us, when we're in costume, we are the characters, and people like being just the characters at certain times, and then they're themselves. And we are never ourselves when we're walking around.
Why do you think that's the case?
The interaction is what we live on. People who dress up like they dress up. Some of our kids like to dress up, but they like to just because they like the characters, and they like being the characters, and it makes them feel good. But they don't want to be the characters. They just want to dress like the characters. It's a way of showing their appreciation for the characters. And our daughters have done that, and they went to the shows early with us, and our sons, and they would dress up and go. But they just wanted to show their appreciation for the characters, but they want to still be themselves.
Right.
But I don't know. For us, it is our appreciation for the characters is literally we are the characters when we are dressed up, and so it's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I guess.
I also think that it may be just more genuine in a way when you're just in character all the time when you're in the costume, because then you're not like, okay, I want a photo with you, like, oh, hold on a second, let me get into the character, like you are already there.
Right.
And I think, just from my perspective, I think people would just appreciate that more because they're like, oh, these guys are just doing this all the time. So it's like you are in character, and it feels like a little bit more genuine. But you wanted to say something, Roxanne?
Yeah, so I do it for two reasons. One is my husband, right?
Because you love your husband.
Because I love my husband. I would not be doing this if I did not love my husband. And the second reason is I love to entertain the people. And someone asked me, are you an actor? I'm like, oh, heavens, no. You can't tell me exactly what to say because I will not be able to do it. You can't tell me how to stand.
Give you a script.
But because we know the character, because we know just all about it, and like Harold says, I guess we know how they feel, that all of a sudden we can become that character and we can bring joy to people. And that's why I do it. I mean,
Right.
when I'm a weeping angel from Doctor Who, and I follow him around, and every time he stops, he's the doctor, I freeze. And he turns around.
I do a little
he starts
turn.
walking.
I see there's an angel following me, and then I turn around and just walk off.
And then I start following him. But it's the same response no matter where we go in the country from people, and they have a certain laugh that they do. And it's interesting to me that it's the same type of laugh that they all do, and it makes them happy.
So if you're in Arizona, if you're in California, if you're in Utah, no matter where we've been, it is almost exactly the same laugh. And you're thinking, and they say the same thing. It makes me happy.
Right.
What you're doing makes me happy.
The Thermians make me happy.
True.
The angels are...
Yes,
that's the laugh. I don't know why, but that's the laugh.
Yeah, we get different responses. So if we're Thermians, it's like you make me happy. If we're
so happy.
Doctor Who, it's this laugh. It's this same laugh no matter where we are.
Right.
It's the same laugh. If we're Holy Grail,
what is that one now?
They clap.
Oh, they do clap. You're right.
And no matter where we've been, as Monty Python and the Holy Grail, they clap. We were in Phoenix, Arizona. We came down the escalator. We're going down. The main convention center in Phoenix is underground, so you have to go down and down these escalators, and it's underground.
And there are four of us.
So I was Sir Galahad. She was Zoot, and we had King Arthur, and we had Patsy, and with the coconuts, and we were walking through. And we always get a clap, but literally we turned a corner and we got several hundred people stood up and gave us a standing ovation as we walked through. It wasn't the laugh. It wasn't the "you make me happy." It was a standing ovation. And we looked around like...
Oh, and then where Professor McGonagall and Snape, and what do they do with that one? All the little kids.
Oh. So, and we also do Professor McGonagall and Professor Snape, and people look at us like the little kids. I don't have to say a word. But little kids, it's the same reaction no matter what. It's the same thing. They look at me and they literally like, oh my gosh, they're here.
Yeah.
They're here
Exactly.
and they're real and they're here. And It's the same. Well, we love being Professor Snape and Professor McGonagall because we're very we're very interactive.
Right.
And but no matter what costume it is, we get the same responses
No matter where
we are, which is really amazing to think about. That people, no matter where you are.
Interesting. So what do you think is the common denominator for that? Is it just that those specific characters have specific
reactions?
Yes,
I
reactions.
think no matter where you are, they have a very specific reaction to it.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what show we've been to, they've given us the same reaction.
Interesting.
And even in New York, we had the same reaction. And it's like, how can people in different parts of the country all have the exact same response?
Right.
It just was amazing to me. It was just absolutely amazing.
Right.
So which one is your sort of, well, I don't know if I want to put you on the spot, like which one is your favorite, but do you have favorites?
The first.
The Thermians.
The
Thermians.
No.
Why is it? Not for Roxanne?
No.
Not.
I absolutely love being Mathazar. I mean, it's just, I just love being Mathazar. I mean, Mathazar is exactly the same thing that I am. I mean, he's a person who doesn't know that he's a leader, but yet he is a leader. He's a person who is so smart. The Thermians are so smart. They're not dummies. And I see other people, I see pictures sometimes of people who are cosplaying Thermians, and to me they look like they're making Thermians out to be
dummies, right?
Dummies.
Right.
Thermians are the biggest fans in the world. They're fans who believed what they saw, and they patterned their whole life after that. And they're very highly intelligent, and they are the biggest fan. And I'm the biggest fan. So I love being Mathazar. I love being that character. It is my way of saying I just love being that character.
What do you what are your speculations on like why people connect to these Thermians? The way I remember Galaxy Quest, and just kind of in brief is, you have these actors, they played on this sort of like sci-fi show.
They're washed up actors.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then these, because all the signals were being sent out to space, these Thermians picked up on the radio transmissions, and they thought it was actually a documentary, or there was real, so they kind of recreated
the historical documents.
Right,
yes.
Historical documents, and so this became real, and then they got all pulled together, and it was a lot of growth. But the way these Thermians were like, in a way, like awkward, right? They have this like awkwardness about them. Like,
they are awkward, and they are
naive.
But at the same time, they're hyper intelligent. I mean, they built these technologies, but like they literally built what was not real on Earth on a TV studio.
They made a Omega-13 from descriptions. I mean, they made this thing. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, for them to have done that. But yet,
so it's such a.
But he's still trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah,
right. But I think what's interesting about it is that it brings in the those kind of like. Things on the opposite sides of the spectrum. They're like naive, but at the same time they're like hyper intelligent, right?
Yes.
And they are awkward, but they are so lovable, right? And so you have these kind of juxtapositions of these kind of characteristics of them, and I think maybe some people connect to that, or a lot of people connect to that because they are like, hey, as we have these things like about nerds and geeks, like, oh, you're just a nerd or a geek, but then again you're like, oh my gosh, you're so smart. How can you code or figure things out? And we get into that, Harold, because I know that you're a coder.
They said the nerds have inherited. I've heard that before. The nerds have inherited the earth, and that's exactly right. Because everything that we do with computers is written by somebody in my position as a software engineer. That's what we do, and so the nerds have inherited the earth, and we control everything.
So let's draw some parallels to that. I think I remember this vividly. Someone sent me this. It was like a picture of like Michael Jordan makes this much money per minute, and and all these different athletes that make these humongous sums of money.
Right.
And then you have Bill Gates, who's making like Bill Gates. If he would bend down and pick up $100 bill, he would like waste $10,000. Something. It's just like this. The numbers were just like so
staggering,
vastly staggering in favor of of I don't know, geeks or nerds or, you know, technologists. Right. And so Thermians for you. What about you, Roxanne? Is it the Weeping Angel?
No, I don't have a favorite. They're all different. When you asked where did it all start, it started for me in our haunted house. We had a haunted house in our home. Our neighbors built a train. So Harold put up a couple tunnels next door, and the next year
ran around.
You can't do a haunted house here and a haunted house there. You have to decide. So the neighbors allowed us to come over there and create, and together we were able to create this amazing haunted train ride. It was in Linden. It's the Stringtown Nightmare Express. Harold was the creative designer. I worked with all the kids that we had haunting, and it was a huge creation. But even though I had 110 kids on staff, we had 2 shifts of 60.
On staff?
On staff.
Well, they were volunteers.
They were volunteers, right?
We had 250 total between we had to have actors, and we had to have people who were volunteers in the line, and then we had to have people who maintained the train. So we had 3 levels of staffing, literally, at this
support,
at this home haunt, and it was huge.
Right. All volunteer. There were 12 tunnels that were 25 feet.
27 feet long.
And about 12 feet wide.
22 feet long, wide.
And every tunnel would have a different theme. So you'd go into the pirate theme, and then you'd go into the Egyptian, and you'd go into the Harry Potter, and you'd go into the Weeping Angels.
The dungeon. And, yeah.
But even though we did all this, we did it for 7 years. It was told by our friends in the haunting community that it was the largest nonprofit home haunt in America.
Could have been.
Yeah. We had 2,300 people in a week.
2,300 people a night.
2,300 people a night. 13,000 in the week.
My goodness.
You'd wait for 2 to 2.5 hours in line. We'd have a queue line. We'd have we'd work with the actors to go entertain the line and everything. Even though we did all of that.
It's like Disney World in Utah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The first time and the last time I ever tried to scare, my kids looked at me and said, "Mom, you can never try that again.
Don't do that."
So I could
scary.
never dress up and haunt anymore. But I would teach all the kids how to do it. And
wait, why?
We actually had acting class for the kids. We would hold acting class. We had. I mean, it was as good as you could get, and especially for free.
Right.
I mean, it was as good as you could get.
Oh, it's
anywhere.
a great family haunt that was blood-free, no gore, no guts, no evil stuff.
Family friendly.
Yeah.
Family friendly.
And 2 trains that literally ran around an oval.
6.5 minutes. No.
It was 6.5 total was the time loading and unloading, but literally it was like Disneyland. 2-hour queue line, 6-minute ride. That's a Disneyland ride. That's what it was.
Right.
But we entertained them the whole time.
Even though I had 110 kids on staff every night, and I was teaching them where to stand, how to scare, what to do, I couldn't do it. And so when we went to Comicon, and Dean had a TARDIS, and Harold said,
it was just in the middle of the aisle, sitting there unattended.
Can we come back and we dressed up as a Weeping Angel the first year. We didn't ask if we could bring the statue right then. And I put it on because it was a girl, and he couldn't be dressed in the girl costume because he couldn't fit. And so I got to be the Weeping Angel, and it was horrible because we painted our arms and our hands, and it just wasn't a great costume. But
it was
still,
6 minutes good. 6 seconds good.
We can talk about that.
Right, yeah, we'll talk about what that means. What is 6 seconds? But yeah.
But I was standing there, and I actually scared people. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could do it. And so that's kind of where it was nice for me. Like, okay, I could actually scare where I couldn't all these other years. Of course, you shouldn't probably be scaring at Fanx and Comicons.
But we're home hunters at heart, so we're bringing a little home haunting to the Comicon shows. It's
right.
Like, so I hope they don't mind.
I think every character that we do does something different for us as well as the people that we're entertaining. And so, I mean, I like being the angel because I can give people a start. And I like being the Thermians because it just makes people happy. And I like being the Monty Python because it makes people do a double take. And
it's a joy. It brings joy in a different way than the Thermians. And Snape and McGonagall I really do like being Snape and McGonagall. We
Yeah.
do a lot with that, and it's what I love about it is we're very, very interactive. We can talk to kids, we can talk to adults, and we can be that's what we love is being interactive. We don't stand and we don't walk around looking for photos. We walk around looking for opportunities to interact.
Right.
In all of our characters, we look for opportunities to interact.
Which a lot of it is, especially to kids, like it's inspiring as well.
Right.
It's not only just the, hey, look, I got a picture with so and so, right? It's also like, hey, this is an amazing,
saw Snape.
right? It was an amazing experience. Right
Yes.
now, it's more of it's an experience. It's not only this static thing. It's an experience, and that's kind of like what I hear what you guys are doing with the interaction part of it.
Being with as Thermians, our interaction is we find people dressed in Star Trek uniforms, and we have to walk over. Tech Sergeant Chen or whatever, Commander, you have saved us, and then and we do this whole interaction, and that's we look for Star Trek uniforms all the time when we're Professor McGonagall and Snape. We are looking for kids or people dressed in
Tweens.
Or tweens,
that age.
Right? And we're looking for that interaction because we just love the interaction, and parents will tell us as they're walking around, thank you for that, because it's not like we're being, Professor Snape is, but it's like, thank you for making my kids feel special.
It brings inspiration. I mean, I'll tell you my story. Let me get a little vulnerable over here on this count. So, growing up, I watched Star Wars and got inspired by a lot of things in it, and it's an amazing story, and there's the mythological aspects to it, and we can go into that somewhat deeper. But what I want to bring in and talk about is like lightsabers. And so my mom is a retired teacher, math and physics, and so I asked her like, hey, I showed her like this, like, I want to build this. Help me build this, right? And instead, and this is why I appreciate what my mom did, and now being a parent, like this is just so in my brain, jammed in my brain. Instead of saying, oh, silly, you can't do that. That's science fiction. That's not real. She said, well, it looks like light. So you need some kind of source of light. It's coherent. It's collimated. It's like, shaped in this beam. And so you need some optics, and it's one color, so it's monochromatic. Like big words. I'm like, monochromatic, what is that? So here's a little kid going from a store to store asking for light bulbs that are monochromatic, and no one knows what the heck I'm talking about. And they're just like, entertaining me, and like, well, try this, try that. And the amount of stuff that I've learned because of this one simple thing that my mom said, like, oh, you can't build it. No, you give it a try it. I learned electronics. I learned optics, lens, how to focus light. I learned about it's just so much, and so that is just such a huge vehicle for like. So now I see like if like someone gets inspired, a kid is like, wow, like, oh my gosh, this whatever, right? Fill in the blank, person, costume, robot, whatever. And if that inspires them, you see that spark in their eyes, right? And you're like, this is the moment where they get connected, and they want to do. Motivation comes out of that and that pursuit, and so like I love that. So that's why what I connect with.
That's why we work with Salt Lake County Library. That's why we work with Hogle Zoo, because the interaction with the people, the kids that are there, the camps, because like at the library, we're trying to inspire them to read,
right?
The books.
So what do you do? What do you do over there? Do you just show up in character and?
They have a week-long camp for kids during the summer, and every day it's a different age. It's a great camp. It's called Al Camp, and you take a lot of.
They're doing STEM.
Yeah, they're doing STEM, but they take a lot of ideas and they just try to help build confidence and give them a safe place to be. And I like being McGonagall and Snape because we get to inspire and because we get to help them believe in themselves.
And we're looking at them. We want them. I'm giving them all these questions from the book. In the book, what did I do this? Not from the movies, but from the book. So I'm trying to inspire them. Look, you need to read this.
Send them on that quest.
Right, exactly. And we just love doing that.
This is so great. I'm so glad that someone like you is doing something like that, because it's like in the modern age of noses and devices and just disconnection from other people, right? This is what kids need right now. Like all this social anxiety, a lot of that stuff that's coming out is because people are just not interacting the way they used to, right?
Right.
And so this is kind of like getting you out of your comfort zone. Like it seemed like you were just a perfect fit for it from the beginning. But
Yeah.
for Roxanne, she's like, you want me to be like this awkward person?
Yeah, exactly.
But then you embody it. So the next thing I want to talk about is like, how was your journey in this? Tell me how, like when you started being that, how did you grow with it? How did you embrace it? Like what was it like for you?
Yeah, so at first, like I said, they never let me dress up, which was fine because I was the one always in charge and making sure things happened, which I like to do.
Right.
And then the next step was I actually scared people, so that was fun.
She startled people.
Yeah, Harold went to an event. He went to some kind of run, and it was a Doctor Who run. And he went without me.
Geeked
and
Out
that
Events just asked us to bring some characters, and they were doing a charity run, and she couldn't come, so I brought some of the Weeping Angels to go along. They were doing a Doctor Who theme.
Right.
And then that same week that I was gone, he went to a hockey game, I think, and he did it without me again, or a baseball game. And when I came
It was
back,
a baseball game.
he had
Yeah.
all these stories and interactions and people that he met, and I wasn't there, and I really didn't like that. And so I had a choice, right?
One and only time I did
Right,
something.
and that's okay, right? I mean, because he could go off and do it himself, but we've done so many things together. We've run businesses together. We've worked in other companies together,
I
and
sucked her into the haunted house.
and we did the haunted house together. And we were a really good pair, and so I just didn't want him to start in this journey because I could see even back then, and you can see now how he just
I
eats
all
it
in.
up.
I
Yeah,
just
he's all in.
I am
All
all
in.
in.
All in.
Exactly.
And so as we start, I did the Thermians, and we had fun, and really we build a culture. And so the people that help us, because it's never just us, we always start to suck other people in.
I know.
Right.
And definitely build a culture together. But we brought our Weeping Angels to the TARDIS at Comicon, Fanx, and it started to grow. And so we have, I don't know, maybe 10 different statues, which are characters, and then all the different mannequins of all the different doctors. And then we had our haunted house background, so we would bring, and our kids all grew up, they were from anywhere between 4 to 20 that helped us, and now they're older, and so
And
they're like, hey,
married, and, yeah.
we could help you. And so we got
Are they
to
continuing the tradition now?
yeah, so we dress them up at the Doctor Who booth, and our Doctor Who booth is, as far as we know, the largest in the nation.
Well, it's
yeah.
most shows, most Comic-Con type shows will have a TARDIS there and just a photo op with the TARDIS. Well, we take the TARDIS and we have a display of all the sonic screwdrivers from the show, all the sonic screwdrivers, and we have a display with sound effects, and we have a bunch of villains, we have a bunch of the doctors. So all this thing is interactive.
And then we have all the actors walking around.
Right.
And so, and then we went to a show, and the Jack, who was doing the documentary, Jack Bennett, he's awesome, he found us. And he wanted to film us, and now we're in a documentary. So all of a sudden, my logical brain, very professional, I had my own company, everything else like that, had a reason that it was okay to dress up. It was okay that I dressed up like a Thermian because, I'm in the documentary for Galaxy Quest.
That's what it took for her.
And it was okay for me to be a Weeping Angel because we have the Doctor Who booth at Comicon and Fanx. And so that's kind of where my journey was. I just didn't want him to do it together. And I think you can do it, by himself. I mean, you could let your spouse do it and be mad. You could let him do it by himself. You could do it with him and kind of be mad about it. And then you could kind of do it and be okay. And then you can start to enjoy it. And that's kind of the path I went through, but I really couldn't fully enjoy it until I am part of the documentary for Galaxy Quest.
Right.
Well, of course I'm a Thermian. And then we have the Doctor Who booth. So that was my journey.
So how was that in terms of?
I did not hear you.
That was a big circle.
I'm sorry.
Big circle. what were the surprises that you got out of that? Because like you said, like very logical approach, right? Like you're this professional with your own business, and so you have this person, this facade, this person, right? Like it's like I'm this. And now, like, hey, I'm this, you know, and it takes a lot of courage and openness to that vulnerability to say, like, hey, I'm a human first and foremost, right?
Yeah.
And these other things are stacked on top.
Yeah.
So was that something that did you have that point where you just realized, like, wow, like I'm okay with this now, like this is no longer I'm not fearing it, as in the sense of like, oh, I just make believe, like it's okay to be that, right? Did you have like that singular moment, or was it something that just kind of?
Oh yeah, for me it was when we were put in the documentary, because that
solidified, like on a rationalized it.
It made it okay for me.
It made
it made it okay for me.
Right.
Yeah, because
so let's talk about that documentary for a second. So. How did that all come about? I know they kind of found you, and yeah.
Well, it was. Do you remember what I said about the whole thing with Thermians when we went to the Fanx show and we were walking around and we were feeling what it was to be a Thermian? We didn't really know, and it just started. It was like it just supposed to happen, and we started feeling what it was to be a Thermian. Well, a couple things happened. We were. Like I said, we like to find Star Trek people dressed in Star Trek uniforms.
I want to talk about that too.
And that's one of our favorite things to do because it's interactive, right?
Yeah.
So we were.
You need to talk about why we went.
Well, I know.
To San
I'm just
Jose.
saying. So in it's a long road to there. I'm sorry. So it got to the point where Fanx, we had been Thermians for 3 or 4 years, and it was like. Oh, we love you guys. We're glad you're back, but it was not quite the same, and that's
new.
okay. Not new. And so for some reason, I just decided, let's look at other shows. And why I picked San Jose? It was the Silicon Valley Comicon, and it was where she grew up, and so I just picked this show, and they just happened to have a whole bunch of Star Trek guests coming from Next Generation. I mean, like the whole cast from Next Generation,
right.
Almost everybody. And so I thought, I think we want to go. It was only 2 months before the show, and it was like, I want to go. And she's like, no. And then I said, but your mom's in the hospital. We should go. That was my rationale for her. Is like, we should go. It
was logical, so
it was logical. So we should go. We can go.
Roxanne, you'd be an excellent Vulcan as well.
Yeah, exactly. She
has that look too.
She does.
I kid you not.
Yeah, she could be a female Mr. Spock.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's very logical. So I played on the logical thing, and I didn't really do it on purpose. But I thought, I think I'd like to go, and so we drove down to San Jose, and we walked around the first day we were there as Thermians.
Nope. The first day we were the crew.
We
and
were
I was
the crew.
pushing the beryllium sphere because they broke the bloody
because
ship.
we have both costumes. Actually, that's another story. Is when Alan Rickman died, I just wanted to honor Alan Rickman, and so I made his headpiece, and is as a way to honor his memory. And so then, because I made his headpiece, then we had to make crew costumes. Even though we were Thermians, we made crew costumes. So we walked around, and I made a beryllium sphere. So we walked around and so we're walking around the San Jose, the Silicon Valley, and then the next day, we were Doctor Who, and she was the angel. We stood at the entrance, and it was a lot of fun. All these people were coming in, and we were doing Doctor Who. But then we decided to go back as Thermians, and we dressed up again. And that afternoon, and then all of a sudden, Jack met us, and he said, "We have been looking for you since yesterday." Caitlin, with the producer that was there with him, saw on Instagram pictures of us at the show, and they're like, "We have to find you." They were doing a secret documentary on Galaxy Quest, but it was really about how fans and why fans dress up, and about fandom in general, and about why people do what they do. It's the same question,
right?
But all of a sudden there were Thermians and crew at this show, which they had picked. I don't know how they picked Silicon Valley, to tell you the truth. But they picked Silicon Valley, we picked Silicon, and again,
Just confluence.
it's this
Synchronicity.
Galaxy Quest magic. It's the same thing when we met Frank. It was like, it's supposed to happen. It was magic when we got together with Frank, and it was the same thing. We got to Silicon Valley, and all of a sudden this magic happened around Galaxy Quest, the same thing.
Right.
And so we got together with Jack, and they did, the next day we did it. He actually interviewed us there at the show, and he was trying to get us to talk.
It's okay. You can break character for the interview. It's all right. And he hadn't been with us long enough yet to know that we would never break character. So he interviewed us, and we were Thermians for the whole interview.
Right.
And so I don't think he was getting the questions that he wanted. And he was like, you can break character. No, you don't understand.
Yeah.
We are Mathazar and Laliari. We don't break character. So then he asked us politely, could we interview you tomorrow? Can you meet us at our suite? And then, so we did an interview with him. And then
They followed us again.
They followed us around, and then
And for those who are itching right now to know what's the name of this documentary, what's the title?
Oh yeah, it's called Never Surrender, a Galaxy Quest documentary. It's by Screen Junkies and Fandom.
And Jack Bennett is the director.
But they had us come to L.A. We thought they were having us go to L.A. to watch a screening of the documentary. And he didn't tell us why he had us go to L.A. But they actually were screening Galaxy Quest the movie again, and they were doing a panel, and they had the director, the producer. Actually, they had more than that. We didn't know they were there. The director, the producer, the writer, and then they had Missy Pyle and Enrico Calatoni there, the two actors
That we dress up as.
Right.
as. And they actually filmed us there during this whole panel thing. And they also had like the costume
They had everybody
director. They had everybody
So
there.
many.
And we didn't even know where they were there.
Right.
And they didn't tell the actors or the directors up on stage, they were sitting on stage, that we were going to be there. And they didn't tell us that they were going to be there. And so there's this interaction, and they're looking down like, there's Thermians
There's
on
like
the
a
front row.
row-
There's a whole
row
row.
of Thermians
There's a
in
whole
there.
row of Thermians down here. We also had Guy Fleegman and the commander with us. So we had 4 or 5 Thermians and Guy Fleegman and the commander there. And they're looking down like, this is surreal.
What's going on?
The best thing was when Enrico came out, so he was toward the end. He came out and he saw us clapping because, of course, we're Thermians in character. And he is dying because he's the one that created it
they
and started
created
it.
this whole
He
thing.
sits down, he pulls out his phone while he's listening, and he's taking
He's
pictures.
taking pictures of us on the front row. It's like, and I'm like, he's my hero. Here's my hero. My lifetime, if it was ever any actor I'd ever want to meet in my whole life, it would be him. And here he is up on stage, and I'm like, this is like, I'm fangirling so bad. And it's like, and then, it's just like this surreal thing. And then for them, they're like, Thermians. It's like, and they're acting like Thermians. And it's like, and then we got to meet him later on, and it was just that they filmed the whole thing. It was just,
Right.
It was surreal. But again, for me, it's always been whatever's happened around Galaxy Quest has been this, like the universe puts it together, and it's just magic. Us going to Fanx and meeting Frank, it was like it was supposed to happen. And how to act. We've watched the show. I've watched the show. Not so many times, but I just
watched it.
when we're Thermians, I feel
You're embodying.
I feel like exactly. And when we were we went to a show in Las Vegas, the official Star Trek convention. And we're Thermians. Well,
Yeah, I wanna
Star
talk
Trek.
about that.
Star Trek. So we love Star Trek. So we're there as Thermians, bebopping around the show, and people are like, one of the vendors came over and told us, "You are the funniest thing I've seen in 15 years at this show."
We had actors get up from their table and come out and ask us if we could take pictures with them. Many times. We had Rainn Wilson chase us down. Not
No,
him,
he didn't chase us down.
He sent someone we have someone that wants to see you. And so we follow her all the way across the Rio, which is actually quite a long way.
It's a large
I
convention
like
center,
how
the
you
Rio.
embodied Thermian over there for a second.
And we're just bebopping, and we don't know, because we're Thermians. Thermians are highly intelligent, but they're very naive, and so we don't know what's going on. We're
Right.
just following. We're not speculating. We're just following along, because that's what Thermians would do.
And then here comes Rain. Can I get a picture with you? And so the Star Trek convention was probably our favorite one, just
Right.
because it's that genre.
Because we, like, what do? We love being interactive, and we're at a convention with thousands and thousands of Star Trek people, and we get to be interactive, like, every second that we're there. It
Right.
was so much fun, because that's what we do. We want to be interactive, and it's like, it's 5-6 hours of being interactive. It was just an amazing experience.
That's all we can take. Then we go back to the room.
One of the things that when I watched that documentary is that blew me away. Maybe I watched that, Galaxy Quest when I was younger, so I didn't maybe get the multi-layeredness of that movie.
Yes.
Like I took it as at a face value, and then having I think it was actually Brent Spinner who was Commander Data playing on
Right.
and he was saying, like, we should have done that. Like Star Trek should have, like they should have
Yes.
done that.
It
And I
would
was
have been
like,
amazing.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I'm starting to think, like, what is he talking about? And then, like, these layers just opened up, like, what Galaxy Quest was really all about. Like,
Right.
not just you got the surface layer, but then you have
Right.
these additional layers. So, and I'm gonna leave it at that, because then now I want people to rewatch Galaxy Quest and get it.
Yeah.
And
Because
so I don't
it
wanna
is
spoil
exactly, and there are some silliness in it, like
Right.
like the ship rubbing against the space dock is an impossibility, and even Rico said, if you put it like that, it's not funny anymore. But it's just, if it was the Star Trek ship, it would rub, because they have a big saucer,
Right.
and it would rub. But the NSEA protector couldn't rub, but that's okay, because there are some things that they put in the movie Galaxy Quest that are just silly, but at the same time, he made a serious movie. If the original director had done it, it wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have been what it is. But I'm so glad that they got Dean to direct it, because what he made was exactly what it needed to be. And again, it was like the universe and around Galaxy Quest just made it happen the way it did, and it was perfect the way that it came together. And for us, it's always been that same way. There's something magical about it that affects even us.
Right.
That everything that we've done with it has been like magic, and it just keeps happening.
Do you think that there is some kind of, beyond fun, beyond just being there and just interacting with people, it almost feels like there's some kind of a therapeutic quality to this. That
It is.
You get to interact. That's one, but also, like, you getting out of your own character, so to speak. Right.
Well, getting out of. So I'm. I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'll be vulnerable for a second. I have celiac disease. One of the things that comes with that is that I don't absorb vitamins very well, calcium in particular. Because I can't absorb. No, excuse me. I wasn't absorbing vitamin D, but you have to have vitamin D to absorb calcium, and because of that, I've got arthritis. So it's a cause and effect thing. When I am a Thermian, when I am any of the characters that we play, I don't have those problems. I don't have my arthritis. I don't have the migraines. I don't have all these things. And what you said, when you say therapeutic, it is exactly that. It is, for me, it is very therapeutic.
So that's like even on a physical level for you.
On a physical
Yeah,
level,
okay.
I don't feel those things
Right.
when I'm those characters. Because the characters don't have those
Right.
ailments, and so therefore I don't have. For a little while, I don't have
Right.
those ailments.
That's very interesting. I was actually thinking about in terms of, almost like just. I don't know what's the right word. I don't want to use like mental health, but in a sense, I do want to use mental health in a sense
Right.
because, society is just boxing you into certain things. You're this, I'm this, and so on, and it's like a theme that kind of goes across. But when you get out of being yourself and you like everyone's like children, like they have just fun. They have no filters. They just have, fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And when we go back and become children, like in that sense, when we are not, oh, I'm an adult, I'm this professional, I'm this, I play myself in this, in this
Why
thing,
are you touching me?
I don't.
and so I feel from that perspective is therapeutic. So call it whatever you want, but it's like I feel like you just get to relax. You get to have even fun, poke fun at yourself too. Like, that way you kind of disarm. Like a lot of people, like I know, like when I was in my 20s, huge chip on my shoulder. You have these things that to be successful, this is what it means to be this, that, and the other. You have this societal models that we are trying to wedge ourselves in order to be happy or whatever that means. And then you get to some of those points and you're like, why am I not happy?
Right.
And so on this show, I've talked to several different people, several different guests, doctors, and also people who bring different interesting perspectives in terms of what makes us happy. Mm-hmm. People that did humanitarian missions and interact with people that don't have as much, don't have these things, and they're happy. And they're like, why are you so happy? You have nothing.
Right.
And maybe it's just that peeling of those layers that we have that maybe gets us a little bit more vulnerable and just open up. And
well, one of the problems with today is there's so much information and people get uptight about things they can't do anything about. And so it's like I keep thinking, dogs love just because you're home. Right. Cats love that you're petting or whatever. But animals they don't worry about things they can't control. So I when I'm a character, all those things go away. And so I don't have to worry about those things. So
When I'm a character, I like being the different one. So Weeping Angel, I get to scare. And with McGonagall, I'm just a little bit snooty. But with Bellatrix, I'm a little bit bad. I'm a little bit rude with Bella. And I like that because I'm not a rude person.
So you get to do things that you would normally not, that Roxanne normally wouldn't do.
She is not.
But now you have that artistic license to do that.
Bella's favorite line is, "It's not nice to stare. I can stare, but
I'm not nice." and then Zoot is the other one. She's naughty. Oh. And it's just so funny to walk in an aisle with, people on the sides, and I'm chasing Sir Galahad.
And I'm Sir Galahad. I'm Sir Galahad the Chaste.
He has this scary look on his face. Oh, but please, it's just me and my sisters. We are so bored in the castle. There's nothing for us to do all day long except get dressed and get undressed and put on pretty underwear. Yeah. And I'll say that as we're passing people and they're like doing a double take and then they laugh because they know where it's from. But I get to be a little bit naughty and a little bit rude and a little bit scary. And I do like that.
Don't we all need a little bit of that in terms of just kind of unwinding our day-to-day?
And I think it is very therapeutic for us to do those kinds of things. Yeah.
Right. So maybe that's what the is the grand appeal of cosplay and interactive cosplay, and getting a little bit out of your own persona, your own day-to-day, and become more of a child again.
We couldn't put on a Star Trek shirt and walk around the convention. It just, because you're still yourself. I just couldn't do that.
Right.
But
it's a different level of sort of support and interaction. When you just dress up as a character, like you said, it's just like, oh, I'm supporting the show. I'm supporting, I'm here. I'm supporting the franchise. I'm supporting this. This, I like it. This is me saying I like it.
Yes.
This is me supporting it. I'm here. I kind of support it financially and community wise, right? But when you interact, then you're taking it to the whole new level, right? And you get something out of it, and you give something. Right. And I think that's a great part about that.
That's exactly right. We do give, and there is a give and take, and it. I guess we feed off of it. They feed off. I mean, it really is. Right. It is fulfilling, very much so.
Do you have a feeling that there is sense of connection that happens when you interact with people, that even because some of those Comicons or some of those events, people come in, they are not dressed, they're just there to kind of experience it. So they're kind of, they still have their facade on, maybe.
Yes.
You know? And then they get to interact with them. You get to interact with them, and tell me some of the stories. I'm sure you had some fun stories where people were like, just like you disarmed them maybe because they were just like too serious about themselves or something. And, I don't know. Tell me some good stories.
The
bad
angel
stories.
certainly disarms a lot of people. People walk by and like, oh, because she doesn't do a whole lot. But the angel,
you don't target. So the weeping angel, every time someone's not looking, she moves, right? And so I don't target the people that are walking across. I target the people that are behind them, because as they are walking this way and this person's walking that way, right when they cross, I move. And then they're like, wait a minute. And they turn over to their friend to tell them, and I move again. Like, oh, she moved again. And then as they're walking away, they'll turn back one more time, and I've moved again. Like, oh, holy crap, and they've gone away.
The colorful metaphors of people. But I mean, that's disarming in a funny way. But at the same time, the interactive stuff. Thermians.
Yeah, probably the captains, they're the ones, because the captains, a lot of them will be just, they look amazing, they've got this uniform on, you know.
The Star Trek people.
Star Trek, they look like a captain, but they're not necessarily in character because they're at the con just shopping and things
they're
like
just
that.
great to look at and just kind of like, you know, take a
which
picture.
Which is perfect, right? You love it.
Right.
And so we will disarm them.
So the girl in New York.
Okay.
Remember so one of the things when we accost the Star Trek people,
give them a hug.
We give them a hug. So we were walking, and the New York public, whatever person was following us, and we saw this girl on the wall, and she was in Star Trek uniform, and so we went over. She could hardly breathe. She thought, you know, what are you doing? And we gave her the, you know, Commander, you have saved us. Anyway, and then we gave her the hug, and then we walked, and we don't do anything else. We just walk away. Like, this is what we do. And she was like completely dumbfounded. Like, what just happened to me?
But she loves it because she knows the movie, and we suck her into that reality. And that's probably why I like it. When people come and we're talking to a little kid as Snape and McGonagall, they don't say, I got a picture, you know, with Snape and I got to meet Snape and McGonagall.
It wasn't a picture with these people dressed as Snape and McGonagall. It's like they look at us like we are the character, and we treat them as if they're students, and we are the professors, and we literally that's why parents will turn to me all the time and say, "Thank you for that."
He's a really good Snape. Yes, but it sucks them into that reality, and that's what I really like about it, because instead of just you being there, you know, getting to be these different personas and enjoying it and helping other people laugh, but it does suck them into that.
Right. So
and it doesn't. Yeah.
So just to kind of in a way summarize the whole interactive cosplay, the making of costumes, going to these Comicons, these conferences. So many different layers of benefits to it, you know, having fun, one thing, but kind of like maybe even growing personally as well, like, you know, exploring, you know, maybe I need to peel some layers off and just relax a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then the unexpected things, like you guys just, being part of a documentary because you were so like it opened up these doors and, you know, these gates that you would never have known that were even there,
not even in my wildest dreams could that ever happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what's happening in Utah in terms of like these. So there's Fanx, right? And Jordan Turner is building up his PopCon. Right. So I'm excited about that. I'll be definitely attending that this year. And when is Fanx typically?
Fanx will be in the second. Is it the second weekend of September. It's usually September.
Okay.
It's September. Depends on when they can book it. It's not always exactly the same weekend, but it's close.
Right. And it's PopCon in May, I think. It's like the fourth.
I
think he kind of scheduled it right before like the holiday and
weekend after Phoenix.
Yeah. And so what's happening at those, like, other than, you know, there's also vendors, right? And they were selling all sorts of interesting things and so on. And I want to kind of segue into the costume making. And I know you, Harold, are making these masks and all these different props and everything. How does that tie into, like when you're a hobby, or how was your journey in that space? Because dressing up is one thing, interaction, that's one thing, but then being and creating these the masks or props, like how is that?
It's if you want to just dress up and buy a costume and just walk around, that's great. But I make all my own costumes. So if we're going to do Doctor Who, I've got to make the costumes. If we're going to do Thermians, which we're like on our 5th generation of, and they are much better now than they were the first year of Thermian costumes or crew costumes. If you look at the rack and where my Thermian costumes, there's a dozen Thermians and there's more than a dozen crew costumes that are all hanging on the shelf down there because I've made them all. But if we're going to do Doctor Who, I have to make masks. So I took a class on how to make latex masks and paid the money. The gentleman up in Ogden, Russ, did a great job of teaching in class, and I learned how to make masks. So now I have like the prosthetic head for Alan Rickman from his character. I have Doctor Who characters. I have Silence. I have Ood. I have Autons. I mean, I just masks that I have to make for all these characters, but I learned how to do it. So
Right.
I took the time and the money to learn all that. I learned how to sew. I had a sewing machine that my mom gave me that she was getting rid of. It was a JCPenney model 72 sewing machine. She showed me how to sew when I was like 16. I had the sewing machine. I got it out. I tried to sew Professor Snape's Potion Master's jacket. Took me 6 months to sew it. It kept binding and jamming, and I finally figured out that I was threading it wrong, and so that's why it was jamming. So I learned how to sew. I literally learned how to sew watching videos and
Right.
what am I doing wrong, and I literally wore that sewing machine out. I had to buy a new one. Literally wore it out completely, and can't buy parts for it anymore. So
Well, he doesn't just sew either. He's learned how to make the costumes and how to make the patterns and how to make them fit different people. Because when you look at the Doctor Who booth and you see during the course of 3 days, you'll see maybe 15 different characters. He's made all of those costumes and all the
and we have
masks.
female and male costumes. One of our kid actors that works with us, he keeps growing. He's 17 or 18. How old? He's now an extra large, and so I keep having to remake his costumes bigger and bigger,
Taller and taller.
taller and bigger.
Right,
Anyway,
right.
so all the learning how to sew, learning how to pattern my own patterns, learning how to mask make, learning how to I'm doing all 3D printing of all kinds of different things that are props, the little things that they hold in Galaxy Quest, the surface mappers and the voxes and the appearance generators, all that. I make all those, and I just spent a lot of time learning all these things because I wanted, when we're the characters, I want to have all these things, and first of all, Galaxy Quest, they don't make all those things, so I had to learn how to make them anyway. But I was just like this big sponge. I just wanted to learn all these things, and I just loved it. And unfortunately, I sucked a lot of people into my hobby, and now our whole basement is my hobby. But I just live for it. I love it. So yeah.
I love where like hobbies draw you in to a space where you get to learn new things, because I believe
A lot
that
of
we're
things.
all creators, and one way or the other we love creating. We love either whether it's expressing yourself or just learning new things. You don't feel like you're stagnant. Like if you have a job that you just kind of do and it's just monotonous, and just you feel like you're not growing, and even if there is some opportunity to grow, like it's it's more often than not, it's not a physical thing that you build, and there's something special, right?
Software is not physical at all.
Right. And you're a software engineer, and so like you get to create things, which is great because you can create something that does something.
I can visualize, see it, but I don't touch it.
But you don't
it's
touch
not tactile.
it. And now with the advent of 3D printing and accessibility to all these different tools that you can do these amazing things. I mean, I've seen fans creating costumes that were just so good. I mean, they looked like the props, the stuff that was made, for hundreds of thousands of dollars probably for movie sets, and it's just amazing. Just speaking from my own experience, when I built that ATST, that chicken walker from Star Wars, and so in Maryland we went to this at the National Museum of Electronics in Linthicum. They have this thing called Robot Quest every year. So Robot Quest Robot Fest. I'm sorry, Robot Fest. And they literally, a lot of people show up with all sorts of electronics, but there's also a club that builds R2D2s.
Oh, and yes.
You would not believe the quality of these things.
Yeah.
I mean, they are set ready. They are remote control. They are lights and
they all open up and the things come out. Oh yeah, they're wonderful.
It is totally legit. I mean, I was blown away. So like, here's this 12-foot ATST chicken walker standing, and there's a bunch of R2D2s going around its feet, and it was just amazing, and just the creativity. Like there's all these different variations. Like someone built a steampunked version of R2D2, so there's like pistons moving and steam coming out, and I was like, it's just unbelievable. And these people are in it, and there's just like they're growing, they're learning new things, they're sharing. It's fun for other people.
Absolutely.
So they just open up a whole different world for me. So I see how that creativity aspect of that comes in, and is like character playing is one aspect of it, but then making your own costume, so you got that learning curve, you got that, it's so beneficial for people just to kind of grow in that respect.
I just love it. So Fangirl, the thing we were in LA, I'm showing my surface mapper and my box to Dean, the director,
right,
and he looked at me and said, "These are better than we had on set." Oh, you're talking to a fan? Oh man. I was just, I'm eating this up. I just love this. These are better than what we had on set. It's like, I'm really fangirling here. It's like, it's like, but he knew what. I don't know if he did it on purpose or not, but frankly, what he said was what I needed to hear as a fan, because a super fan. It's like, this is like,
it made your day.
It made my millennia. I mean, it was just like, to hear him say that, it's like, I'm living life like, I mean, this is a dream for me.
Right. What can people do? Like, so those who are like new to this space, like you got pulled in, and what are some of the words that you would want to like share with people that are like maybe not sure about whether they want to dip their toe in this, or I mean, clearly there's a lot of benefits and it's a lot of fun if you kind of give yourself permission to be there, right?
Yeah, that's what it is.
What would you say to people like that who are like, I'm not sure if I want to go to this. This is kind of silly to me.
Well, I would just go the first year just to go and see what other people are doing, and if something moves you and you want to try it, and try one thing and enjoy it.
It doesn't matter how good it is. Our Galaxy Quest Thermians were awful.
That first year,
they were awful.
They were made of this material that you would just sweat. So I'm sure we lost like 5 or 10 pounds. But he would go on as Mathasar, and it would just flee. It was just like, gross. Yeah. So it doesn't matter how good they are.
But we had fun.
Yeah, and people had fun with us.
Right.
Yeah.
They were off. They were. I look at those now and I'm going, those were just awful.
Don't do it just to do it, but if there's something that moves you, then try it and improve upon it, and bring people along with you and see where it goes.
And it doesn't matter. There are lots of cosplay support sites, if you will, Facebook groups, and so many people say, well, they said this to me. I have never, in all the years we've done it, in all the different shows, heard anybody say, "You guys are terrible." I mean, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know, but I don't know that I would hear it anyway, even if they said it.
You're talking about the costumes. So you're trying to
but anything about it.
Right.
I mean, just the whole experience.
Right, but maybe in part, maybe it's because like people, when you're going to things like that, people go with sort of the attitude of playfulness, right? Like you're not going over there to. This is not a conference where you're teaching doctors, how to do brain surgery or some
not
kind
at
of
all.
super serious, like somber thing. It is like, hey, we're here to have fun. We're here to support this whole thing, and come and join us.
And it doesn't matter how good it is. We have lots of Weeping Angel people that come in their costumes, and one of the things that made me the saddest about the Weeping Angel was there was this one girl that had a wonderful Weeping Angel costume. It wasn't the same as Roxanne. Roxanne looks like a statue. I mean, you would not know it was a real person. She looks so good.
I stand really still too.
No, she's really good. And the other ones look like people in costumes, but it's okay. And I love when people come to the Doctor Who booth and she's there. I love to have them do photos with them, and I keep all those photos because I love complimenting them on the photo. And I'm not some professional, you know what I mean? But I love complimenting them on how good their costumes look, and I love seeing the different costumes. I love every one of them, and I don't care if they're just they threw it together or not, because I know where we came from for sure. I know how bad ours were. But the one thing that made me sad was this one girl had this beautiful costume. She looked so good, and then I saw on one of those cosplay sells things she was selling it. She'd done a picture with Roxanne. I thought, I hope it wasn't because you didn't feel like yours was good enough,
right?
Because it was a beautiful costume,
right?
And it was, beautiful costume. And I thought, I hope that she wasn't trying to compare herself in some way, because her costume in some ways was better than Roxanne's, and in a lot of ways, actually, frankly. But Roxanne, she is a weeping angel when she's an angel. But
I like what you're saying in terms of, it's a journey, right? It's a growth journey. Like, you start somewhere and you improve. It's not like you're competing for something at the end. They're just like, okay, 10, 9, 7 sucks.
Yeah.
This
No,
great, right?
exactly.
It's
There's
like,
no rating cards.
Right.
Exactly.
There's no this is a journey. This is a journey for all these people to kind of go on, like, hey, this year I did this. Oh, I've learned something new. Wow. And you shared something with me, right? Like, how do you do this? How did you do this thing over here, right? Oh, like, how,
Yes.
And so next year you figure it out, or you get it. So it's like that journey. And then the next year comes that satisfaction. I'm like, well, look what I made, right? And
I mean,
do you see people that come in like every year? Like, do you have like friends or some people that just kind of show up every year, and you kind of grow together on this adventure?
We've met a lot of them that are really good, and a lot of them that we see every year. Some of them are very quiet. The two older gentlemen, the one gentleman that stands by the bleachers every year, we want to go up and give him a hug every time we see him. And we've met people that come from places like Vernal that come in, and we have to make sure we see them and give them a hug. I mean, we just love interacting with those, and we've built a lot of friends over the number of years, and so it's been fun. We definitely approach it somewhat differently in a lot of ways, but we just love having that interaction. And then again, doesn't matter how good or bad ours are compared to theirs, because some of them are just I'm in awe of how good their costumes are. But they have never said anything to me about how good or bad my costumes are, and I love to just see their costumes. I just love their costumes.
Right.
I mean, to me, it's like, yeah, you're right. I want to see.
All in.
I am all in. I am all in.
That's how you got to go big or go home.
we had a person that just contacted me from England that they want to start a Thermian group in England, and he wanted some pointers on some of the props.
Right.
Are you kidding? I'd love to help you. But whatever I can do, I'd love to help you. I just like.
So where do you see this going in terms of
gasoline on the fire?
Thermal gasoline on fire?
It's gasoline on a flame.
I said it wrong.
And he would never say flame. He would say on a torch.
On a torch.
If he was truly
petrol
English.
in there, I'm sure.
Yes,
too.
and he would say petrol.
Changed the whole course.
I'm sorry.
So what do you see this going in terms of like you guys been doing this for a number of years, right? And clearly you have a lot of fun with this. Where do you see this going? Like even like just like in general, like the growth. It seems like there's more and more of these conferences happening, right? There's even like over here, like PopCon is growing. Everything is growing.
Right.
It's gaining momentum. More and more people are getting into this. So in your own kind of like predictions, what do you think is going to happen in the next year to 5? What changes do you think is and what have you seen in the past for the of the past 7 years? What have you seen in terms of like changes in this space, good and bad? Do you think it's just going to get like all commercialized and it's going to be just like super commercialized, or do you think that aspect of that fun, the fun factor?
I'm a little worried about the fun factor. But I do see that we're at a point, as good or bad as our costumes are, that we're at a point where people are looking to us for advice on things, and I like being in that space, because I'm certainly not Russ Adams. I mean, making masks or Mariel sewing or whatever. These friends of ours that are so good at what they do, but at the same time, if somebody wants to ask something, I love, I know, it's this. He's
like Mathesar, that's a leader, but he doesn't know he's quite a leader yet. He's still growing up.
But I love, and
isn't that a universal quality about men? We're just overgrown children.
Yeah, I am an overgrown kid at heart, but I don't see us growing what we do too much. We've done a number of different shows over the year, and we are doing panel. That's something that we've added. Yeah. We are doing panels, which that kind of makes you feel like you're a celebrity in some ways. In some ways, it doesn't. I mean, nobody cares.
Well, and I think our story is really cool because we had a genre that we love, that we dress up as, that we entertain and interact with other people, and the people that know about the show that we're making a documentary found us and put us in the same space as all of the actors and all of the screenwriters or the screenwriter and producer and director, just everybody. We got to be in that space. Who wouldn't want that to happen to them? If they're dressing up like Superman and all of a sudden they get to go up and meet, it's a pretty cool story to tell.
Meeting your heroes.
Well, and that's what we're doing with our panels, is we're talking about that story. But they're doing less just talking panels. They want more interactive panels, but we try to anyway. But that's kind of our this year thing, is to do panels. This last year, but it's a flash in the pan. It'll be come and gone, and then we'll go back to our
do something different.
I'm all in when I'm in, and we'll see.
And typically, what happens too is he's all in. And then, like our haunted house, it got huge. 13,000 people in 1 week in your backyard. It got so big. The last year, it was a perfect year. Everything went great. All the props were good.
I rode the train, and I smiled at everything. I walked. I walked through the queue line, and everything was exactly what I want. Every year I think I can do this better. Every year I think, I can do this better. That last year I walked through, I rode the train, everything was exactly the way I had pictured it in my mind. It was perfect.
Right.
They weren't perfect props, but they were what I pictured we could do with what we had. The 6 seconds good thing.
Right.
And I smiled and I thought, it can't get any better. It's like,
it was a good year to end.
It's a good year to end.
Right. So I was going to say, like, retired that on a high note.
Right.
We tend to do that a lot.
I do.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of, right now we're at the Hogle Zoo, and every Halloween we build this amazing palette maze. Harold can figure it out and see how it does, but it's gotten so big. It started out with 70 pallets, now it's up to 200 pallets, and it's just too big for us to do. And so it gets to that point where you have to decide, can I improve it, or was that a really good year to end on?
Right.
And
we'll see.
We do that often. Who knows?
Things that don't take a lot of time, like being the professors at Owl Camp, we can do that. We just love doing it, and it doesn't take a lot of prep time on things.
That energy. As we get older, it's just the more physical props are a little bit harder. You bring in our
Right.
dragon, and our dragon is really big.
Dragon's 18 feet high.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot to set him up.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it's just a little bit wearing. So all those things. So that's where we're getting more into the interactive and the mask making and
Right.
the prop
The smaller
making.
things, but we can do. I don't know. If I could see one thing as a legacy for us would be Thermians all over the place, because we've gone to so many shows and we are still the only Thermians. I mean, shows that have 70,000, 90,000 people. In New York City, the oldest Comicon in existence, we're the only Thermians walking around, and there are people from every genre you can think of
Right.
walking around the show, and we're the only Thermians.
Right.
I mean,
So it's time to pass on that legacy and get others involved.
that's what I thought when this person from the UK reached out to me. I thought, you know what? This may be where we go with this. We may end up helping other people, do and find the things that we find, joy in doing, the same thing. So I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Well, on my end, I just hope it's not going to get kind of stolen by just getting over commercialized. And so I think what happens with some of these conferences, they kind of start and they the kernel is great, and then just kind of grows into this thing, and then just kind of transforms into this big machine of
Right.
which is just kind of like just hijacked by just too overly commercialized maybe,
Right.
and maybe some of the spirit just gets
Exactly. PopCon, I think, is then that growing stage, but
I think a great example is every con has a different feel. And so you have the Fanx and the Phoenix Con, the Fan Fusion, where I really like the feel of it. We went to New York and it was a great con, so many people, but it was so crowded and commercialized that you could barely move down the halls. You could not interact.
Right.
And so for us,
the interactive part for us was stymied in New York because it was just
so packed. It was
so
just
crowded,
Right.
And so for us, we didn't have the same feel because we couldn't
Right,
do the
right.
interactive that we love to do.
It's like a
yeah.
bell curve, it just
yeah.
gets into that place where it just kind of peaks, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
Time to maybe when you're at the height, maybe it's time to spin off another one, and that's what seems to be happening right now. There seems to be more and more of these coming online, and so it seems to be a con for everything.
And I was surprised. Furry cons and all these. I thought that's a thing. I didn't even know it. So
Right.
whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe the more the merrier. I think everybody's going to find their own little niche of what they're really interested in, and maybe from the general to the specific, it's going to kind of spin up and continue. I mean, I see a lot of positive things out of it, and I hope it continues.
It's just they're really expensive. So the question is can they maintain or not? Because doing these shows, just shockingly expensive for them to do these shows. So I don't know. Yeah.
Right.
For the show itself, and then you have to pass that on to the patrons. So then, I don't know.
Any final thoughts? I think we kind of covered a lot of ground over here. I really enjoyed this conversation. I liked it from various perspectives of just the personal factor, the growth, the journey that you guys have been on, how this kind of like maybe even unified you guys, because like you joined Harold on his journey, right, and found fun in it as well, and.
Well, we've also found magic. Then that's the thing that shocks me the most is there's something in the universe that's just made things happen for us. There's magic.
Things.
There is magic out there. I got to tell you, there is magic out there.
There's definitely connections that are happening that are like even like us being over here and doing this podcast, and just how things got connected and how one thing led to another, and so well, thank you for opening up that gate for me, showing me and sharing some of your stories and some of your experiences. And I really wish you the best. I hope to see you on, which is the next one that you guys going to be on? Are you guys going to be on the PopCon?
We'll be at PopCon, but the week before PopCon, we'll be in Phoenix at Fan Fusion. So
right. Well, hopefully Corona is not going to
Yeah, it
they
just
already-
canceled Seattle.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
we
were
were
going,
supposed
but
to be
we
in
pulled
Seattle,
our
and that
panel
got
out.
canceled. So we'll see, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys again for being on the show. Is there anything that you guys want to send a message to, or shout outs, or share whatever you wish at the end
Yeah.
with?
They can watch our journey on HRW Creations. We're on Facebook and we're on Instagram, and then Thermians from Utah. So those two
Thermians from
places.
Utah. Yeah, that's my baby. No,
All the
that's my-
craziness of
all
what
the
he's
craziness all the magic that we've run into. So, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for being on the show, and
Well, thank you so much.
I've been delighted. Again, each one of these podcasts opens up a different perspective for me, a different window. So I thank you for sharing it with me and for sharing it with others. I have a different appreciation. I'm going to be definitely at PopCon, and bringing in my chicken walker from Star Wars.
Oh,
and
that'd be great.
I'm so looking forward to meeting a lot of people.
We'll have the TARDIS there
and
It'd be
interacting,
great.
yeah.
So
who are you guys going to be over there as?
So Jordan's asked us to be the Thermians, and we have our TARDIS there, and we'll have a weeping angel. So who knows what else?
yeah, we'll have to see. But well, I'm sure we'll do at least several Doctor Who and the Harry Potter for sure and Thermians for sure. So
Great.
it'll be fun.
Looking forward to seeing you guys
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah.
Be fun.
All right, until then.
All right.
Thanks.